Haunter is already kind of bold, but Kingsbane is still largely unproven.
Yeah, Kingsbane, I think, is definitely a really strong deck. It's just kind of weird to see where it fits in, and also a lot of players are trying to get, progressively better and better with the deck, as it is one of the, I would say, newer quote-unquote decks. I mean, it was in the past format, but a lot of players didn't play it because they were too busy playing like Odd Rogue or Quest Rogue or something like that. And I think with this matchup off the start, it's going to be favoring NoHandsGamer, as we saw earlier. If it doesn't end in a draw, Taunt Druid has a pretty good shot in this matchup.
Yeah, Taunt Druid then tends to just get that immovable wall and has more than enough armor, even without Malfurion the Pestilent, to get themselves out of the big burst range, or at least make it so that you have to have everything and the kitchen sink be thrown at them.
And more. You take the refrigerator, throw that at them.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, Viper has a list that can do exactly that. He's got double Faceless Manipulator. Some people choose to be a little bit defensive with Howling Fiend. Some people choose to go like, Lich King approach to have more meat. Viper says, you know what? This is a combo deck.
And I'm going to
combo you. I'm going to put all of it in.
I was talking to both NoHandsGamer and Viper before the set. NoHandsGamer was saying that he actually, one of the few people he lost to in the Swiss was Viper. And he said he was up 2-0 and got reverse swept on his Q block. So NoHands was a little bit worried about the Q block. And then Viper was saying he loves this Druid. This is like his baby right now. And he said the reason to play Faceless is matchups like this, where you can just kill at 80 health. Something ridiculous.
You get a lot of freedom with what you want to do. As long as you discount any piece of, the Malygos Faceless combos. Now, I do want to point out that, Viper's hand's been pretty awkward. NoHandsGamer hit the Nourish, and Viper does have the Twig, but, a lot of good that'll do. That Twig doesn't want to snap for quite some time unless he happens to have immediately the combo with Malygos and Faceless Manipulator to copy it with a bunch of other spells.
Yeah, it had Wild Growth into Twig, but is really missing that key Nourish turn, whereas NoHandsGamer did hit that. So a lot of times, if both decks go ramp for ramp, I would say it definitely favors the Taunt Druid, as Viper's going to take a bit more time to assemble the cards and pieces to his combo, and he has to kind of set up board states where he reduces these cards, whereas NoHandsGamer is just playing an honest game of playing huge taunt minions and then just smacking them in the face.
Yeah, I mean, so what was really funny to me for a long time was people considered Druid to be more of an honest class. This is, of course, a long time ago before several things got printed in Knights of the Frozen Throne. But, the idea is that Druid was not very good at doing tall and wide boards, or Druid tend to fight a little bit more honestly with just the minions that they have. But, with the way ramp works these days into some of the most powerful recruit effects with Master Oakheart, it feels like it's just so hard to come back if you're really far behind the mana. And Viper takes a risk. He coins out the Florist, recognizing that he needed to hit either the Faceless or the Lich King. Probably the Lich King, ideally, because then he can copy it with Faceless. That still doesn't take away from the fact that he's very far behind right now.
Oh, yeah. That is a Master Oakheart relatively quickly on the board. And, Dan, I don't know if I've ever commentated with you when I use my joke.
You've tossed out a lot of jokes when I've casted with you.
I have.
But go ahead and hit me.
Do you know what Master Oakheart says when he enters the battlefield?
What does he say?
He said, "Onwards, friends, to the next game."
I got it. That's nice. I like that one. That's cute.
Yeah, that's a good icebreaker, when you're at a party.
Great. Yeah, I can see you making a lot of friends with that one.
But all
to be fair, like most of my friends these days are from Hearthstone, so,
right?
It's not like it's a bad idea.
Well, I wasn't saying like a, this is at an HCT stop, right? This isn't at a, your local bachelor party.
So Viper was very prepared in case his opponent hit a Sleepy Dragon, because then he could Lich King and Faceless it, which would have been really dope. And then, in fact, he could have maybe even gone a level deeper with 3 Lich Kings, get Death Grip, maybe steal the Hadronox from the deck. But all that's been thrown out the window, because right now, Master Oakheart has introduced like 40-plus stats on the board.
And it's going to keep producing 40-plus stats on the board. I was looking at this as a potential line of play, which is very unique because...
Oh, that's even cooler. I haven't seen this.
Yeah, it's really cool.
The Floop copying the Hadronox.
Yeah, you get the first Lich King, and then hopefully you get,
It's dope.
2 more Lich Kings from the second Hadronox because you can play the Forbidden Floop as well. It's a desperate play, but it's something that Viper kind of has to do in this spot.
It makes a lot of sense because now I think Viper can go on the Doom Pact plan if he ends up getting it. That Trog Gloom Eater, though, how clutch is that card?
Oh, Trog Gloom Eater, it's really good, especially in matchups like the Mirror Match, where you can take a value trade into one of the 4 attack minions and constantly have it alive. Another thing Viper's going to be trying to do is not only get these Lich King cards like you were saying, but maybe there's a hypothetical world where Doom Pact gets taken and then he gets 2, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the Death Grips. He gets 2 Death Grips and then takes both cubes. It's a very slim world. It could happen.
I like the swipe from No Hands because he's recognizing Viper needs to attack with the Twig. So by taking away his health, you take away his plays. And I think Viper would have to gain armor through Malfuriant the Pestilent before he's able to snap the Twig.
Yes.
In which case, then he can Ultimate Infestation and do some other plays. But man, does that look less than ideal, to say the least.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what exactly Viper could do here. Could take a value trade with the Hadronox, then maybe Ultimate Infestation it off in order to get that Lich King back. But like,
okay, it keeps him alive, I think.
It may keep him alive, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe on board with that Spellstone in hand, only being able to do what, 4 damage.
Picks up. Does he have Innervate in his deck? I probably imagine not, since he's jammed so much greed into it with Faceless Manipulator.
No, there's no Innervate in this list. I don't think there's much room where you can run that Innervate.
Yeah, and I think this is just death right here. There's just no way for him to survive. Yeah, he's dead on board.
Well, the Armored Golem can't attack currently.
Oh, you're right. There's not enough armor.
So there's not enough armor.
Oh, okay.
But if it could attack, so if there's any kind of armor gain. Okay.
Interesting. Well, no, Spellstone, though. Spellstone helps get through, doesn't it? What, is the Spellstone at 4 or 6? It's at 4.
Spellstone is at 4.
Yeah, so it should still be okay. You just Spellstone, the 3 and the 2 go into the 1/5, and then it's 8 damage exactly.
It is 8 damage exactly.
That, I mean,
that was close though.
If he was able to launch a counteroffensive, though, this was actually quite a fearsome board with branching paths. Man, I'm actually always surprised how Malagos Druid still barely hangs in there to maybe have a little bit light at the end of the tunnel.
It's one of those decks that, you have that final burst damage with Malagos, Moonfires, and Swipes that most people are just familiar with how it ends the game.
Good card, and I love Spirit of the Tiger. I think it's a really fun card.
I just like that it guarantees buffs, and that's something that I think even Paladin
I must protect
doesn't necessarily have the strongest of right now.
Definitely. Let's go to Q-Block versus Malagos Druid. This is the deck that you're saying could be the deck worth worrying about?
Yeah, that's what No Hands said. He said that he was up 2-0 against Viper, and then his Q-Block got reverse swept. So, it's going to come down to, can he get a win with this? I definitely think it's, a strong enough deck to do so. We've seen it do very well through the course of the tournament. Wouldn't be surprised if it has one of the most positive records, at least on stream that we've seen. So, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets there, but definitely in a matchup like this with double Faceless and Floop in Viper's list, it's going to take quite the mountain to climb.
Yeah, and I think one thing that will be very nice is the Acidic Swamp Ooze onto the Twig. So it cuts down the combo potential slightly, but Viper still has so many good tools at his disposal because of the Faceless Manipulator, which just seems like he keeps drawing over and over. This specific hand, if he draws Lich King, it's almost the exact copy of the previous game minus a Wild Growth.
Now, Wild Growth is pretty important, though. Won't be able to get to those cards as quickly as possible. No Hands is really going to be looking for that Skull of Minari, especially with 3 demons already in hand, basically making Possessed Lackey useless at this point. There's still a Void Lord in the deck that it can pull, so if he does find Lackey, it's not the greatest of draws. And having 2 Doom Guards with Gul'dan in hand is very scary, because sometimes you're forced to just tempo out a Doom Guard. But with Gul'dan, you risk losing ultimately what's going to win you the game.
Yeah, I think the contemplation is whether or not we should set up this Doomsayer to prevent any development, but it's not like the Malagos Druid tends to develop anything on 4 anyways. That's nice. Wild Growth.
Yeah, typically it's 5 is when they get the Arcane Tyrant down, if they play anything that relatively early. I guess you could stop a Libidinous Flute from being tempoed out, but that does not seem realistic at all.
Yeah, I think actually killing this 2-1 is perfectly fine. Wild Growth's not rushing to anything specific. You're really only ramping into either Ultimate Infestation, maybe the Florist, not really. So, ooh, nice pickup here for No Hands. He's got the Mountain Giant. It does run into the Naturalize, but it's still something that you want to threaten your opponent in case they don't have it. If you're really worried about it, you could coin out, or you can coin to free up your hand space a little bit.
I think No Hands has a lot of the essential tools in his hand. Maybe you'd be worried about burning something like a Carnivorous Cube or that Skull of the Monara we've been talking about. But one of the cool things about Viper's list is because he has Faceless in the list, it gives him another pseudo pressure tool / answer to a Giant from No Hands. So he can opt to naturalize this, but he may just Faceless it, and if No Hands trades, it was like a 5-mana naturalize. If he doesn't trade, then he naturalizes on the following turn and then pushes 8 damage face. But throw that out the window. He just wants to get that thing off the board.
Yeah.
But if he didn't have the naturalize, that's where the Faceless becomes, you know.
Yeah, Tolerance not that big of a deal, but it does sting a little bit. It's all about what the next card is too, though. Not that big of a deal. So everything's okay, and this is part of the reason why a lot of people who stream and play at a high level always talk about how forcing your opponent to burn cards, while very exciting, because you might be like, oh, I can just burn their win condition, it's not very likely. Therefore, you know, it's not something that you should always be prioritizing as your #1 option. It just so happened to line up with Viper needing to remove that Mountain Giant, as opposed to him saying, you know what, I'm going to go out of my way to try to make you burn your win condition.
Yeah, there are very few times where burning a win condition is crucial. I guess one of those decks could be potentially Shutterwalk Shaman, but that's when you kind of, all hope is lost and you realize you're so far behind that you need to do that. In this current game state, you know, game matches like this, you don't really get to that point as you do with Shutterwalk Shaman.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely identify with that. That's awkward.
I hate to say this, but I'm looking at Doomguard. I'm pulling an Admirable. I'm thinking about playing it.
Why does Admirable think he's the only person ever to have played Doomguard from the hand?
Because I'm pretty sure I've only ever seen Admirable play Doomguard from hand.
No, it's the fact that he always plays Doomguard
from hand. And he always talks about it.
Wow, this is exactly the same hand as the
It's
previous
just
game without
one
Lich King.
missing.
Yeah, it's almost exactly the same. If he hits the Faceless Manipulator, he's in the money. Anything else, kind of a reroll, because then you can still use Florist to try and play it for 0 on whatever else you draw. And also he's freeing up his hand space because of Ultimate Infestation. And also I think he has 2 copies of Florist, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, there are 2 copies of the Dream Petal Florist. I was going to say, it almost looked like No Hands was hovering over the Faceless on the Dream Petal Florist. Yeah. That's a bit of a, you know, weird kind of play.
Ooh.
Okay.
Florist, UI.
Arcane Tyrant.
Arcane Tyrant. This is beautiful setup. It just makes you feel like Florist is a lot more consistent because you have 2 of them, or rather 3 of them.
And you don't even necessarily mind the Florist.
Oh.
Wow. I was going to say, you don't necessarily mind the Florist hitting onto a Faceless.
Right.
It's almost like having just 2 Malagos.
And now that you have Malagos Faceless, just finding 2 Moonfires means death, as long as Blood Reaver Gul'dan doesn't heal them to 35.
Oh boy, this could be a lot of damage pushed through. Could even opt to go a Faceless on the Void Lord, just to put something in the way to protect these minions as well.
It's also so sick that the floor survives, so Viper
Yes.
might even have the kill next turn if it discounts like Malygos. If I'm Viper, I wonder if I'm also tempted to draw cards to see if I can get deeper into finishing the game soon with like Moonfires and another swipe.
Yeah, the first thing I'm looking at is this Ferocious out here. Just the cheapest way to draw cards. Maybe you find another way to answer these 1/3s. I don't necessarily think you can. But you could end up trying to naturalize the push through some damage. I like this Branching Pass to be held on to for potentially attack. If you can kind of get through that way, you may not need to even use the Malygos. That's being quite optimistic.
Time waits for no one.
Oh, wow. He's going to try to discount Malygos aggressively. I think that's right, because as long as he's able to maintain the Malygos and Faceless together, it's just going to be 33 damage with the 2 Moonfires.
This could reduce the Faceless from 0 to 0 to 0.
Well, it's already at -2 to now -9 and then -16. Which means even if you had 16 mana wraiths on the board. Wow! Yowza. That's all I can say about that. 0 cost Malygos, 0 cost Faceless. So that's, what? 14 damage just from the swipe next turn?
That's enough. I mean...
That plus a single minion that sticks. So if you play a Void Lord, your opponent just double trades and swipes, it's game over.
And the fact that it's just 2 free 4/12s with spell damage +5 next turn. If he wants it.
Oh, yeah, sequencing so that way we can stick the Mountain Giant. But
This Giant, it's seen better days.
oh, it's so close to death. Lich King's also not a bad pickup because what you can do is get Death Coil off of it, and that's a big amount of damage burst as well.
I think Viper's going to go for draw 2 just to hit 1 Moonfire. As soon as he hits a Moonfire, this game is over. Oh, well,
And it's over.
speak of the devil.
Oh
my god.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. And No Hands nods his head, recognizing, oh, this is kind of what I was worried about. Cube Warlock can struggle against all of these decks. Death Rattle Hunter puts a lot of pressure on. Malygos Druid has the combo in the late stages of the game. And even Warlock gets those Mountain Giants and pressure even faster than Cube Warlock on it.
With the double Flourish, double Faceless, is because in the mirror match, you just win. There is no way around it.
Kingsbane Road versus the Even Warlock.
I'm not quite sure how this matchup goes.
Yeah, you know what? Let me look up what the current data says, if you don't mind.
Dan's over there going into the NASA lab. Well, the current data says there are 2 Mountain Giants inside of Viper's hand.
Yeah, turns out it's favored then, right?
What deck can you be unfavored with?
It's actually unfavored against Kingsbane Rogue, just based off initial glance. But if you look a little deeper, oh no, it still stays static. So yeah, it's about 50-50, but with a slight edge to the Kingsbane Rogue. I think that probably has to do with kind of like the tipping point. Like the first half of the game, I think is even Warlock favored, and the second half it's like slightly more Kingsbane Rogue.
It also probably comes down to how does the Kingsbane Rogue deal with this early pressure. If something like these Giants just go unchecked with no form of removal, like a Walk the Plank,
Walk the Plank
can snowball out of control.
Walk the Plank's like so scary too when you're like opponents just playing back-to-back Mountain Giant. You're like, oh, I just used 1 removal and now I can't even deal with the second one.
So I love the Gluttonous Ooze from No Hands. What it does is it means when Viper wants to play their Mountain Giant, Viper will play it, and then instantly Kingsbane, Cutthroat Buccaneer comes on the board, and will clean it up. May have to take 8 in the process, but I think Viper is, I don't think No Hands is too worried about that.
Yeah, and this is a matchup where I actually think weapon destruction matters to a certain extent. A lot of people talk about how ineffective weapon destruction can be against Kingsbane, but every single turn that you can stall them from getting to do something and then pressure them in the process is a big win because they need to invest mana to search for it again. Like, Raiding Party will practically take an entire turn for the Rogue to set up. So
it used to be a bigger deal in the past when you didn't have access to Raiding Party.
Right.
So it's not as big of a deal now, but it is still a massive, it's still a, sizable deal to think that they have to spend that 3 mana.
Right.
But they also have to combo it as well.
Yeah, like in this position, Viper has that opportunity to shut it down. It could also just put out the Stubborn Gastropod to put out some body in the process.
I'm really looking at this Mountain Giant coin Acidic Swamp Ooze.
Yeah. I'm liking it a lot. Especially because for no hands, he has no combo to activate the Raiding Party. Raiding Party draws Pirates first, and if you combo it, you get a side additional bonus of drawing a specific weapon from your deck. But if you don't have anything to play before it,
I think Viper's probably thinking, does he even need to use this coin for Acidic Swamp? Because he's going to.
I like it though, just for the pressure.
Well.
And even if No Hands has like the second Shiny Finder, the idea is that 3 out of the 4 mana has been consumed by it, which means that only Sap can deal with this giant. Or walk the plank off the top.
Ooh.
And that's not what No Hands is looking for.
Oh boy. It just feels so bad to put a giant back in the hand. Especially with something like Vanish or Sap. Even Sap just doesn't feel right.
The Ooze needs to die for sure.
I'm not even sure if you can play this Raiding Party. You need it to draw that weapon.
Right, but if you're not going to play it this turn, you're most likely going to try to set up a Vanish next turn. Back in the same seat as you were the previous turn. So how does Viper now play into that Vanish turn? Let's see what he does. Oh, the second Ooze.
The first Ooze wasn't good enough. Here's the second one.
Ouch. Okay.
I can definitely see where this can be a close matchup, but right now it's just
It just
looking
does
like
not look like
slaughter.
that whatsoever.
It just looks like an absolute slaughter right now. And I mean, there's not much that No Hands can do. He's going to have to vanish this. Probably won't swing with the Cutthroat Buccaneer as he doesn't want Hooked Reaver to become enabled because he can barely deal with the threats on board now. He does not want to give Viper a Hooked Reaver. Then Viper can just instantly play this giant again.
I wonder how much Mojo Master Z plays a factor in this matchup too.
In the late game, probably plays quite a bit. You play out your, large-scale minions, and when they're trying to get something like Valera down, you can prevent them. Or if they're trying to, hard cast a sprint without the preparation, it can stop that as well. It's very versatile, it seems.
Ooh, Skulking Geist is also a really powerful tech card against it to shut down Deadly Poisons and Doomerangs.
Especially because we haven't seen a single Deadly Poison yet.
How is this matchup Kingsbane Rogue favored? Like, based off the way I'm looking at this. I mean, I'm just pulling out data, and of course, part of it is that Kingsbane Rogue is probably, on average, a harder deck to play than the Even Warlock in terms of basic competence level. Because Even Warlock's fairly straightforward with what you want to do, although at the highest level, there are nuances to each deck. Is he just accepting his fate? NoHandsGamer sprints with a hard cast for 4 cards.
I'm just trying to think what you can do here as NoHandsGamer. Especially with the Skulking Geist coming down.
Right.
That's just brutal.
I think the Skulking Geist is definitely the play, and you actually kind of do No Hands a favor to drawing a single card to free up his hand space. But yeah, this is looking pretty bad. Oof.
Oh, look at that. Look at all that.
All right. Onward, friends.
To the next game.
To the next game. That was brutal.
Oh,
but this is also something that Kingsbane Rogue can sometimes be susceptible to. Heck, I mean, most Rogue decks can have this problem. That was a Tempo Rogue back in the day. It felt like it just generally always got, once in a while, having nothing to do. Even though you can have like all the cards in your hand, just doesn't do enough.
It's one of those decks that when the cards fit together, it's very powerful. But sometimes the cards just don't fit together. Sometimes, you have Blade Flurry Leeching Poison in your hand, but you don't have the weapon. Sometimes you have the Pirates. don't have the weapon. Sometimes you have the weapon, but you don't have any buffs. And No Hand spots it. Gonna go and take that 8 damage. Viper's gonna take a 2-1 lead.
All right. Well, that's going to be game number 3.
A really good even Warlock, and then, you know, an acceptable even Paladin.
Even Paladin with the Tiger is pretty dank. And Death Rattle Hunter does have a lot less pressure than even Warlock early on, but its late game potential is much better. So we'll see what ends up happening with Viper's Katharina, because that's going to be the focus point. And Viper also has that Prince Keliseth going on from the get-go, pausing on turn 1, which I can understand. Do you want a tracking for specific early game pressure, or do you want to save tracking because, you know, you have things like Keliseth and Katharina, which will make the deck better as time goes on without tracking's help?
Yeah, it looks like Viper's just going to go ahead and develop that candle shot. May also be that he wants to get the buff on the minion first before tracking.
Yeah.
That's a little, I guess, less negligible than trying to, you know, find something specific later on, depending on how the game state is going. I think that's one of the, you know, important things about the cards like Shadow Visions and tracking is turn 1, you might not necessarily know what you want. I mean, sure, maybe Gluttonous Ooze would be nice, maybe a Devilsaur Egg, but sometimes you may need that one of tech card.
It's true. You know, the thing about Keliseth, too, whenever I have it in hand is like, I'm like, sweet, I start with Keliseth in my hand, and then I draw a minion to me, and I'm like, man, I'm so unlucky. I drew a minion, like, it's like I draw a Saturday Night, you draw a Saturday Night Chain Gang right after, and you're like, God, I'm so
why
unlucky.
couldn't you have just stayed in the
yeah,
deck?
exactly. King Crush gets this as an option for tracking, which means that if Viper doesn't take it, it's discarded. And that's relevant. I mean, people used to say they didn't want to play tracking because of the fear of discard. People would always say, well, it doesn't matter as long as it's the bottom of your deck. With recruit effects, it actually does matter now.
It does matter quite a bit.
So, you know, don't let, you know, Brian Kilmer try to mislead you these days. Just kidding, of course.
Because
that was a video made a year ago.
I know, right?
But, you know, the idea is that recruit does dramatically impact how tracking works.
And don't worry, if the King Crush was burned, we would have forgotten about it when Katharina was played for lethal. So,
yeah.
as all casters
I'm still waiting,
do.
man. we got to get the caster's deck tracker live in game. That'd be sweet. Blizzard, please.
Here are prayers.
I know it's coming soon.
Coming
just make it a lot sooner, please. No Hands making his big swing turn right now with the coin leeching poison instead of that Kingsbane.
Oh, that's a pretty important draw.
Nice. That's a big draw.
Viper did not have a single play that turn.
Except for Houndmaster Shaw. Gonna have to walk the plank.
Yarg.
And that's why that card is good. People are like, why do I want to play this over Vile Spine Slayers? Because it's a turn earlier and you don't need a combo activator.
It's something that, you know, select decks like Kingsbane Rogue were looking for. Vile Spine still a very powerful card. The issue is it's more tempo. It's more of like a coin Vile Spine to kill your minion to develop something to try and push damage through. Kingsbane Rogue doesn't need to necessarily have a board. Their minions are just dedicated to that one dagger.
Yep, that Doomerang getting a lot of value for that Kingsbane, especially with Captain Greenskin waiting next turn.
Ooh.
Oh boy. So the thing about Viper is that you have Katharina, but what if you have no more beasts left to pull?
Yeah, I think there's going to be 2 Witchwood Grizzlies left, but
and a
actually,
Swamp King Dread.
I do remember that one.
I like it. Swamp King Dread is pretty
Swamp King
sick.
Dread's cool. It's unique. It's different. New card.
I have a dead draw here for no games, no hands.
Uh-oh.
Okay, now in this position, tracking is actually pretty good, but of course the risk of discarding all the rest of your beasts. There's one of them.
There's one of them, and if you draw the other one, Katharina is an 8-mana 6/6.
But Witchwood Grizzly in this position is pretty solid. Your opponent just played most of their hands. It seems like they're going very aggressive oriented, and if they do play Sprint, you dominate the board state slightly. Actually, no, it dies because of the weapon's at 6, right?
Yes.
That's annoying.
I know. If only they had one less card in their hand.
Yeah.
Running out of gas, though. If No Hands doesn't find something soon, like a walk the plank, like a sprint, maybe Viper can just, stick some kind of minion on the board.
I mean, it's great that he has all these, threats and whatnot. Or sorry, all this big buff for the threats, but eventually he's going to have to draw the sprint, and if he has nothing left to defend himself, wow!
That is a massive King of the Swamp.
There's only one thing left to do. You got to vanish this, right?
I would say so. I'm trying to find a reason not to vanish it.
I'd be very surprised. Oh, well, he does have an option of also attacking into Katharina and then vanishing. Make Viper have to pay full cost for all the beasts.
Looks like that's what No Hands is going for. I think so as well. You also, kind of gauge to see what gave them back, so you kind of get a bit more information.
They also lose their buffs. Swamp King Dread, and Whiff Grizzly will become 3-12 and 9-9 again, right?
Yes. Swamp King Dread. Now that is a dinosaur. But he's no King Crush.
Hail to the king! Oh, that buff is actually so annoying right now. Because the King Crush...
Because he picked up the Fan of Knives, he will be able to clear it.
Oh, he picked up Raiding Party. Wow. Yeah, so the
so he draws it as well with the 2 pirates.
Yeah, that was a really clutch set of draws here for No Hands. The Fan of Knives to let him get that extra damage. And the Raiding Party. I think this is the turning point, potentially. Like, we're talking about how Kingsbane Rogue can be favored against some of these slower decks. And it was looking a little dicey, but just enough potentially to hold off, because that Kingsbane Rogue has 4 charges, which should be able to cancel 4 threats from Viper.
Not only that, but if he can commit those face turn after turn, if Viper can't present threats, that's just lethal amounts of damage.
Viper was hovering over the Devilsaur Egg. The only problem with the egg is that it doesn't present a lot of threats inherently itself, so you'd have to use like the cube.
Looks like Viper's trying to, assemble some kind of wall as well. I mean, I think Viper realizes that he's not going to get there by playing one large minion. It's just going to die to Kingsbane.
This is looking really good for No Hands. Sprint comes into the hand. Now he can take his time, and he's very much prepared for any kind of board with Carnivorous Cube, because then he can just sap or vanish.
Yeah, picking up the sap as well can basically get rid of those Grizzlies.
Blood and thunder.
Almost don't mind it here. Just make sure that Grizzly isn't a scenario anymore. I believe there might still be 1 Grizzly left in the deck. No, I actually don't think there is, because 1 got played earlier, and the Grizzly inside of this cube was from the vanished one that came from Katharina. So there's no more Grizzlies left, so there's no more real defense left. And I think that's why No Hands is just pushing face damage.
Yeah, this is the right play, and I think that Viper can't really stop it very easily, because the way you answer Kingsbane Rogue is either to push and pressure them, maybe destroy their weapon as you're trying to find a small window, or to just continually freeze them, which obviously is not available in Viper's arsenal.
This is looking pretty rough for Viper. I'm trying to see what he does. I mean, he may have to commit to the charged Devil Sword just to clear up the Dread Corsair. Because if he doesn't, there is a potential for him to die next turn. Alright, looks like he's going to go for, a different line. How much damage is this?
There's 11 plus 2 plus 1, so there's 14. But if you vanish, get 15? Yeah, it looks like 15 damage to me. Because the Cutthroat Buccaneer can be there can be preparation advantage, and you can play Cutthroat Buccaneer again.
Yep, so 1 damage off lethal right now. For some reason, I was thinking Deadly Poison might give 3 attack, and then I realized, wow, that'd be, you know, too good of a card.
It's still a very solid card.
I mean, I don't mind just, you know, pushing it all face. Why not?
Yeah, I have a very hard time finding an out for Viper, but he's just trying to see what his last cards can be. And the tough part is, like, even if he was able to survive like another turn, he just from the rest of the game, it feels like he's just going to be 1 turn away from death because he's at 2 health. So, like, you know, No Hands could even be attacking with just the normal dagger. Doesn't even have to be the Kingsbane anymore. The job's done.
Yeah, maybe you should have vanished just to, you know, put him to 1. That way you can kill him with the normal dagger. So you're not worthy of the Kingsbane.
Yeah, his best chance now is the death of Stalker Rexar for a cheap taunt minion. But it has to be. I don't even know if it's possible anymore. It has to be like Gastropod. It has to be like Gastropod and like Snow Flipper Penguin.
But Snow Flipper Penguin will always be second.
Yeah. And so that's it. Viper taps out, and we're going to game number 5. Determine who is going to the grand finals.
Yeah, No Hands was talking about how he was worried about his Q block. So if he can get this Q block through, he'll be going to the grand finals.
Yeah, that's right. So now Death Rattle Hunter is not as good as it is at bursting compared to mid-range Hunter, and Cube Warlock has a lot of damage potential against a deck that can't really stop it.
Alright, there is a very important card for No Hands in that Mountain Giant. Viper is going to be looking for, you know, some kind of Devilsaur Egg for that early pressure. Hunter's Mark will be an answer to the Giant. We'll want to try and find some kind of candle shot as well. I think this is probably a really close matchup.
It's basically 50-50 if you look at the data. Slight edge to the Death Rattle Hunter.
But what about the Double Giant? You know, what is that? What do the stats tell you on having Double Giant in the hand, Dan?
I can tell you.
Ooh.
With Giant, it bumps up the win rate pretty significantly. Your win rate's 55 at that point, so you are favored if you're able to drop the Giants ×2. It's really the fact that there's 2 Giants, because Viper can deal with 1 fairly easily with like a Spider Bomb or a Hunter's Mark, but
the
you know, how do you do with the second one?
Bright side is not like even Warlock where, you know, they would have the Giant down this turn. It's going to give, you know, 1 more leeway turn.
Yeah.
But with Doomsayer, that sets up Giant into an open board.
Yes.
Oh,
and the skull of the Minari. Not looking good for Viper so far.
Ouch. That is a hero power pass on turn 4.
And No Hands has the Mountain Giant. Does Viper have anything he can do? He can draw the Candle Shot, or he can draw the Spider Bomb.
So
Spider Bomb would be really clutch.
Yeah, Spider Bomb would be pretty clutch. One interesting decision for No Hands here is that Viper does not actually have weapon removal inside of his Hunter. So he could have, you know, debated on the coin skull of the Minari.
That's right. It would have been also very strong. Oh, tracking. Tracking can help you dig deep. Find that Spider Bomb or Candle Shot.
Candle Shot would be just fine, but you just don't develop anything. Unless you get Spider Bomb, then that's something.
Spider Bomb is very much development, because now your opponent can't really play anything into it. That is the power of tracking. Wrapped up in a nutshell. And why all you 100 players should be playing that card. It's so good.
Gives you so much versatility.
Now here's another awkward thing. If you play Skull, you are committing your Doomguard into that Spider Bomb. It's like it needs to go down.
You're saying, you know what?
Right.
Doom Guard.
There's ways to
sacrifice you to the Spider Bomb gods.
Yeah, there's maybe ways to work around it with like Cube, but man, is that kind of a scary proposition.
You could just value trade and then Carnivorous Cube the Doom Guard.
Right.
And then force the Spider Bomb to clear off the cube. And if they don't, you can then faceless the Carnivorous Cube and take a value trade.
Ooh.
So I like just, leaving the Doom Guard there and saying, you know
I
what?
like it. I like
Deal
it
with
a lot.
it. And I believe the Death Rattles, the way they work, is Hunter's Mark into a value trade will not actually kill off one of the Doom Guards.
So what you can do instead, though, is play dead, kill off the cube.
Oh, okay.
Hunter's Mark, one of the Doom Guards,
There
traded
we go. That's the big brain play.
Jeez. I don't know how he's managed to survive this, but he's doing a pretty good job so far. Now, if Mountain Giant gets played, he just Devil Sword charges, and then he has Darkstalker Rexar to ride the Dino all the way home.
Ride the dinos all the way home. Sounds like a really bad children's book. It's like, this little piggy went to the market.
Well,
piggy went home.
Going home is usually associated with losing in tournaments, I guess. Right? You're like, I'm just going to go home. But, NoHandsGamer has this Mountain Giant, and Viper can finally answer it. Tit for tat. No one really gaining a big advantage, except for the life total. NoHandsGamer keeps getting lower and lower in health. Hold on.
I mean, does he just go for a hero power here to set up the King Crush?
I was like, what if you just sneak it in there? Just be like, well, I don't have that much good plays. I guess
I'm just going to play a Devil Sword and hero power. My hand's kind of weak here.
Is King Crush at 9 or 8 attack?
I believe King Crush is at 8 attack because it was drawn the turn Prince Keleseth was played. Prince Keleseth was played last
You're
turn.
right. You're right.
So it would be one off, but you could go for it. I mean, Viper's got a little bit of life to work with. But staring down a Giant's pretty scary. Especially because there's Faceless, there's another cube.
Well, the reason why okay, so there's two things. One, your opponent's still holding the coin, so he could coin out Void Lord, but he hasn't pulled out Void Lord, implying that he would have had to either drawn it off a life tap the previous turn. So if you do this, your opponent might life tap again and put himself within range. Oh, Devzorek has 1 attack. Okay, that's a big deal. Forgot about that.
Oh, sneaky now.
Yeah, no Void Lord. No Hands has to draw it.
Uh-oh.
He has the Dark Pact to stay alive.
But, I mean, I think he's going to play around that scenario.
Yeah, he can Spirit Singer Umbra, and then Tal'Daram the cube, and then Dark Pact the egg.
I do like that. I do like the Spirit Singer Umbra, Tal'Daram the egg, and Dark Pact the egg. That's a really nice play. I mean, could also go for Godfrey trade Dark Pact, but that just seems fairly weak overall.
Yeah. Godfrey means that he loses his own Mountain Giant. The reason why I like the Spirit Singer Umbra is that you keep a board, and then you stay alive through King Crush.
I guess this means that NoHandsGamer doesn't necessarily have to Dark Pact, but, I think he has to, because if King Crush gets drawn from Prince Keleseth...
Right, exactly. He doesn't know if it's going to be the buffed King Crush.
Oh, boy.
Sure, go for it.
I like it.
And now No Hands is like, okay, I kind of expected that, but I have to faceless and trade.
Faceless King Crush just to trade. Or coin Gul'dan, trade 2 of the Doom Guards away.
Oh yeah, is there 2 Doom Guards?
There are 3 Doom Guards.
3 Doom Guards, yep.
I kind of like trading the Doom Guards off.
Yeah, the Doom Guard's much better, especially because you can set up your hero power much better.
This is looking a little scary for No Hands there.
Yeah, but I think the corner is about to turn. Viper needs to resort to his Deathstalker Rexar. Hunter hero power is no longer able to get to that point.
Oh, God, these are going to need to be some good beats. On the bright side for Viper here, there's no more, crazy Gul'dan turn. There's just 1 Doom Guard on the board, which is still intimidating. but at least Viper won't have to worry about that Gul'dan being played for like 4 Doom Guards, because the Gul'dan board swing is now gone. But Skull the Minari is still up.
Oh my. Oh my. That Possessed Lackey draw allows NoHandsGamer to play the Spirit Singer Umbra and not only summon a Void Lord, but also get the benefit of... Okay. All right. Well, he's going to take the safe route then. I was like, dude, he can just lock out any charge damage. This is entirely reasonable as well.
I like this. Just push a lot of damage. And it's probably also sets up lethal over the 2 turns.
Yeah. That's probably the biggest deal. It sets up lethal, at least in his mind. Viper does have a way to stay alive, but that's all it is. It's just staying alive. It's not actually winning. Deathstalker Rexar plus Candle Shot, but we'll see what comes out of the Beast side. And unless some huge beast is able to come out...
I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what it's got to be, Dan. It's got to be something massive.
It has to be something with, like, stealth. So that way he can maybe cube and Terror Scale Stalker it.
But is he going to have enough time to play it, especially with staring down 2 Doom Guards?
What about... Okay, Arthas and Vicious Scalehide. It looks like he picked these the zombies, but that deals 5 damage to himself.
But it has lifesteal, so he'll regain the
Oh,
health
that's so
taken.
funny! Yeah, that's hilarious. Actually, it offsets its downside completely. There you go.
It's just a cute little tortoise. However, his board is about to get massive.
Yeah, and I think that's going to settle it. Viper looks away because he realizes that this game is slipping by the second. And this is looking like the last turn here for Viper, unless he's got something big up his sleeve. Nope.
Trying to think of what it is. Has to be some kind of Build-A-Beast. Blow bat.
Oh, and no activator.
Oh,
it's
it
too
wasn't
expensive.
cheap enough.
Yeah. He gets the Bloat Bat Poisonous. No play dead. Would have been absolutely massive. Or if he had the life total to play with. Viper concedes, no hands, completes the comeback, and is going to the grand finals, taking down one of the top